Hey everyone, and welcome back to the ATD Movie Channel. I'm Tony, and today I'll be reviewing Shazam, the latest DC comic film adaptation to the big screen. Let's jump right into it. And so the basic plot of the film is about a young kid named Billy and how he becomes the superhero of Shazam. And it all came about by having a run-in with a wizard, believe it or not. And I don't want to dive too deep into the plot. I never do in my reviews. But essentially, it's a film about a kid who gets superhero powers at the age of 14 and what he does with those superhero powers. And like I do with all my reviews, I want to talk about a few things that I liked. The first thing that I liked about the film was the story. It's light and it's a comedy, and it absolutely harkens back to the 1988 film Big, starring Tom Hanks. And similar to this movie, Big had a teenager who was living his life through the body of an adult. And so there's so much comedy that can come about from that scenario. And this movie does it beautifully. There's even an Easter egg in this film that harkens back to Big. And you'll catch it if you've seen Big. You'll catch it pretty obviously. Overall, this is a really small story compared to other big budget action films, and I like that. It's a change of pace from the world-ending circumstances in other superhero films. We basically get to see Billy navigate through dealing with his past and how he's going to handle the superhero powers that he gets, his relationship with another character in the film, which I'll talk about in a minute, those kinds of things. There's a lot of heart in the movie, and it's done really tastefully and really thoughtfully. Yeah, there's been comparisons to Deadpool, but it's sort of like Deadpool that's much more toned down and family friendly. The next thing I liked about the film are the characters and the performances. Zachary Levi plays Shazam, and Asher Angel plays the younger version of the character, Billy Batson. Levi plays the character with so much joy, and being a grown man in a superhero suit, we can actually see him as a 14-year-old through the dialogue and the script. He's really funny, and the character tries to get away with things that a real 14-year-old boy would try to get away with if they looked 10 or 15 years older. Things like buying beer or visiting a gentleman's club. I mean, these are things that real teenage boys would try to get away with if they didn't look 14. And these performances, both by Levi and Angel as the young Billy Batson, they really help sell the entire film. It's all based around these two performances, in my opinion. Dillon Grazer is Billy Batson's scene-stealing foster brother. This young actor is hilarious. I didn't see It last year, but apparently he did the same thing in last year's It horror film. This kid is hilarious with some of the best lines in the movie. He gets some of the best jokes in the film. The best laughs from the audience came from Dillon Grazer's dialogue. He's also a really good contrast to the Billy character because the Grazer character has a disability, which obviously contrasts Billy's newfound superhero powers. But he also knows all there is to know about superheroes, so he kind of sits in for the audience in our place. He hasn't had to deal with what Billy has had to deal with growing up, so it feels like this character has had time to study pop culture and read about superheroes, and he's the one that educates Billy on how superheroes get their powers and all that good stuff. This contrast between Billy and his foster brother adds some pretty intense drama. But it also gives a sense of brotherhood that the characters develop throughout the movie. Again, I can't speak highly enough about Dillon Grazer's performance in this movie. He's really, really good. And the last performance I'll talk about, and I'll dive deeper into it in a moment, is that of Mark Strong's performance as the villain. He plays Dr. Thaddeus Savannah, and he's really good in the movie. I want to be clear about that. There's no over-the-top maniacal plan, and he's also not so grounded in reality that we forget this is a movie about superheroes in tights. I just thought that Mark Strong did a great job with the task at hand and the script that he was given. But again, I'll dive deeper into that character in a moment. There's a bunch of other really great supporting characters. I just don't have time to talk about them right now. A few other things that I liked about the movie, the DC tie-in. So I love that the movie acknowledges the DC universe with different references to Superman, Batman, and Aquaman, but it gives itself the distance to kind of stand on its own without all those other characters. And I thought that was a clever way to approach this movie. Another aspect of the film I liked is the meta silliness. That's what I'm going to call it. The movie felt very much like a family-friendly Deadpool. But Shazam never really breaks the fourth wall or talks directly to the audience or anything like that. there's just some really funny meta moments that the movie explores. It's kind of hilarious the way it makes fun of superhero tropes we're all accustomed to seeing in other movies. It makes fun of the way that the kids discover Shazam's powers, like flying and invisibility. And I'm not spoiling anything because a lot of these things are in the trailers. But it also makes fun of things that we've never seen in superhero movies as well. So I'll leave that to you guys to check it out when you watch the movie. It's not perfect. I loved the film, but it's not perfect. I liked the villain, but there's a huge gap in when we're introduced to the villain at the beginning of the film and when we see him later in the film as a grown man, and the movie doesn't fill us in on any of the blanks. It literally leaves it to interpretation what could have happened from the beginning of the film where the villain is a child to, I don't know, the end of the first act when we're reintroduced to the villain. And so that huge gap in the story, to me, didn't make the villain a viable foe for our hero. And I'm trying to tiptoe around it just so I don't spoil the film. But watch the movie. Let me know if you thought the villain was believable or a viable villain for this kind of film. Another aspect of the movie I didn't like or felt could have been done better was Billy's backstory. I appreciated the fact that Billy has a delicate backstory and one that makes us sympathize with him, but I needed a little bit more. What he went through growing up is heartbreaking, and no one can deny that. But we need to know why this kid is the way that he is, so that when he does get the powers that make him invincible and able to fly, what does that mean to him? What is that giving him? What kind of freedom is he escaping, or what kind of freedom is he gaining, and what is he escaping because of it? It might be purposefully done that we don't dive deeper into Billy's backstory so that the movie stays lighthearted. But in my opinion, a little bit more backstory would have helped tremendously in this otherwise really, really good movie. And another thing that these are pet peeves in some instances. This one is a real just pet peeve. It's not a big deal, but I felt like there was a tale of two Billies. It's kind of related to my previous note about we don't see enough of what Billy went through as a child to really understand why he is the way that he is. Young Billy is a good person. He's flawed like the rest of us, but overall he's a good person. They show different various clips of how he's resentful towards his upbringing and how he carries the baggage of his upbringing pretty much everywhere that he goes. However, on the flip side, Shazam, played by Levi, is the most fun-loving kid we've ever seen, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a 14-year-old kid that has freaking superhero powers. Of course he's going to be in a good mood. Of course he's going to be joyous. And Levi is great as Shazam. Angel, the actor playing Billy, is great as Billy. But to me, they didn't feel like they were playing the same character in different costumes. And again, I get it. It's a pet peeve, but it's something that I felt like it was worth sharing. In conclusion, this is a terrific superhero movie. It's a fun summer popcorn flick that's a welcome change from other dark and depressing superhero movies. And there's other things I liked about the movie that I didn't really even cover in this review for the sake of time. Things like the CGI and the action sequences, even the score I enjoyed that I just didn't have time to talk about today. So, have you seen Shazam? Did you know about the character before the film's release this week? And what did you think about such a comedic approach to the genre? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be notified of content uploaded regularly. You can find other movie reviews on the channel as well. Thanks for watching my review to Shazam. I'll talk to you soon.